Everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in this video we are going to be working on this product landing page, and it is one of the 5 certification projects for the FreeCodeCamp responsive web design curriculum. So this is what we are going to build, not exactly the same thing but something very similar to this. So as you can see, we have our head or our navigation bar here. We have our hero, and we have some features of the product. Then we have a video embedded on the website, and we also have this price listing here, and then we have a footer, as you can see. All right, so let's get started. This one looks interesting. Okay, so the way we are going to be building it is that we are going to be using this user stories. Okay, so this user story shows us what we are supposed to do, and then at the end of the day, when we run the test, all of these tests should pass. At the moment we haven't done anything, so all of them are failing. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to click here, this button here. Now when I click this button, it sent me to a blank page. So that's the preview. That way we can get enough room to write our code. Okay, so let's get started. So the way I like to do it is I like to start with the HTML, write all my markup, and then I go ahead and do the styling. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to declare our doc type, and we say doc type HTML, which tells the browser that this is an HTML document. Next up, let's add our HTML element, and let's give it a lang attribute with the value set to en. Then what I will do is we'll add a head element. Let's also add a body element as well. Good. Now inside the head element, I want to add some meta tags. Okay, so the first meta tag I'm going to add will have an attribute of char set with a value of UTF-8. Next up, let's add another meta tag. This one is going to have a value of an attribute of name. Let's give it viewport, and let's give it a content attribute with a value of width equal to device width, and let's set the initial scale to 1.0. okay, all right. Now the next thing we want to do is also add one more meta tag, and this one is going to have a name with a value of description. Okay, and then I'm also going to give it a content attribute which will have a value of mechanical keyboard landing page, because that's what I'm going to be building. I'm going to be building a landing page for a mechanical keyboard. That's the product. All right, now that we are done adding our meta element, the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and add the title element. Okay, so we add our title element, and I want to give it the text mechanical keyboard. Okay, all right, now let me go ahead and link our CSS to our HTML. So I'll say rel, and I'll say style sheet, and also I want to give it an href. The value is going to be this right here. Let's say styles.css. Okay, now to test whether I have been able to successfully add a link, I'll come to our styles and I'll say background color. Sorry, let me first say body, then I'll say background color, and let me give it a value of green. Okay, so it's working. So our CSS has been successfully linked to our style sheet. Okay, let me click here and let us have some more space to work with. All right, so next up, let's head into the body. Okay, so for the body, the first thing that I would want us to work on is the header. So as you can see, we have this header here, which has this logo image, and then we have this navigation features, how it works, and pricing. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is to first add, looking at user story 1, it says your product landing page should have a header element with a corresponding ID of header. So I'll say header elements like so, and then what I'm going to do is to go ahead and give it an ID with a value of header. Okay, now inside we know that we are supposed to also have this logo here with the image here and then the text. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a div, and then I'll give this div an ID of logo. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to add an image. So you can see an image within the header element with a corresponding ID of header image. A logo would make a good image here. So what I'm going to do is I will say img, and then let's give it an ID of header image. Let's also give it a source attribute. Now the image I want to use for my logo is this right here. So I'll copy it and let me come and paste it here. And as you can see, this is what I will be using for my logo. So it's a mechanical keyboard. All right, then I also want to add an alt. So let's say alt, let's give it a value of mechanical keyboard. Okay, now I will go ahead and add a p element, and let's say match keyboard. Okay, so now I'm done with this part of it. So I'm coming to the navigation here. So the way I'm going to do it is come I want to come outside. So let me put this inside the logo. We are still in the logo. Okay, and then come outside the logo like so, and then I'll add a nav, because we are told that number 3, within your header element you can see a nav element with a corresponding ID of navbar. So I'm going to add my nav element like so. Okay, so let's give it an ID. The ID we are supposed to give it is navbar, and then inside the navbar I'm going to give it 3 A elements, which is for link, and I'm going to give each one a class. Okay, so we are told you can see at least 3 clickable elements inside the nav element, each with the class nav link. So nav link, and then I am going to give it an href attribute. For now, let me just write hash. We'll come back to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the shortcut. I will hold Option and Shift, then I'll press down, or Alt and Shift and press down. Okay, so the first one is going to be features. Second one is going to be how it works. Next up, this one will be pricing. Okay, so now here I will say features. I will explain why in a bit, and I'll say how it works. Then this one is going to be pricing. Okay, so we are told that when you click a nav link button in the nav element, you are taken to the corresponding section of the page. Okay, so as you can see here, when I click here, it takes me to the features section. When I click here, it brings you to the how it works section. And then when you click here, it brings you to the pricing. Okay, so for us to do that, we have to give this an href attribute, and the value has to be hash, and then the name that we have here should be the same as the ID of that session. So when you get there, we'll do that. All right, so now that should be about it for the header, and I'll just do this. Let me add a comment here and say header. Okay, next up, what I want us to look at is the hero session. So when you come to our product page, this is the hero session, this right here. Okay, so I'm going to let me give you a comment and say hero section. All right, now what we are going to do is, first of all, add a div element. This div is going to have a class of hero, and then inside that class of hero, I want to give it an h1. The text I will use for the h1 is going to be, I'll say, durable ergonomic product. Okay, so that's for this one say handcrafted homemade masterpieces. So for me, I'm saying durable ergonomic product. All right, then we are told that your landing page has a form element with a corresponding ID of form. I'll come back to 6 in a moment, but for now, let's do 7. So for 7, we want to add a form element. So let's say form. We add a form element like so. And then we want to give the form element an ID of form, like we are told in the user story. So give it an ID of form. And we also want to have inside the form, within the form, there is an input field with ID equal to email. So I'll say input, okay, I'll say ID email. Let's give it a type of email, and then let's give it a placeholder. First, let me add name email. Let's give it a placeholder, and let's say enter your email address. Okay, so let me clean this up a little bit. All right, so that is looking nice. All right, we have to write clean code. Okay, so now moving on, let's also add, let's look at our user stories. The email input should have a placeholder text to let users know what the field is for. Okay, we've already done that. The email input field uses HTML5 validation to confirm that the entered text is an email address. Okay, so that's what this is for, this type email for. That is what is going to do the validation. Within the form, there is a submit input with a corresponding ID. So let's add one more input. And this input is going to have an ID. Let's say ID of submit. It's going to be a type submit, and it's also going to do what? As you can see, submit. Okay, so I want to change the text. So I'll say value, and I'll say sign up. Okay, so as you can see, instead of submit, it shows sign up. All right, so that's what the value attribute is used for. All right, now that we have that, let's look at number 12. It says when you click the submit element, the email is submitted to a static page. Use this mock URL. Okay, so the way we are going to handle that is to go to our form elements, which we have here. Okay, and I am going to add an attribute called method, and let me give it a value of get, and I'll also use this action attribute, and then I'll copy this URL here. Okay, so what this means is that if somebody uses or input their email and they click the sign up button, it will send the email or the data we are collecting to this address we have here. Okay, all right, so now let's move on. Okay, so now we've done the header session, we've also done the hero session. Let's continue. The next thing I want us to look at is this features session here. Okay, so again, I'm going to bring a comment. I'm going to bring a comment. I'll say features section, and then I'll come here. So let me add a section. Let me scroll up so that you see what I'm doing. I'll add a section, elements like so, and then let me give it an ID of features, because this is the features session. So I'll say features, and then inside the features session I want to have a UL. Okay, so as you can see, this is a list of features. So I'm going to have a UL, and this is going to be one list item, another list item, and this is also going to be another list item. So let me say UL. Let me hit enter. Then I want to give this an ID. The name of the ID is going to be feature dash list. Okay, and then I would want to give an li like so, and for each li I am going to, let me click here, I'm going to add an I element. Now I will explain why an I element very shortly. Okay, so it's going to be an I. The I is going to be for this image. We'll come back to it very shortly. After the image, we want to have a text and some description. Okay, so the way I'm going to handle that is to say, let me add a div, and then within the div I'm going to add an h2. Okay, so let's give this div a class of feature text, and let's also give the h2 a class of feature heading, and then below that, for the text or for the description, I'll use a p tag. Let me write the p tag correctly. And then this p tag is going to have a class with a value of feature description. Okay, now what I have to do right now is to copy this. Okay, this li, I'll copy the whole li, and then I'm going to repeat it 3 times because there are 3 of them. So I'll repeat it 3 times here. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is, for the icons that we have here, I want to use icons from Font Awesome. Okay, so for us to use icons from Font Awesome, what we need to do is, you can go to Google and type Font Awesome, CDN. Okay, and then click the first thing that comes. So this library here, CDNJS library here. So you select the first one and then click this rear. As you can see, it says copy link tag. So that's what we want. So I'm going to click it. Now, once I click it, I come back to my code and go to the the head element. Okay, I go to the head element and paste the link that I copied. Okay, so as you can see, these ones are some security stuff. For now, you don't need to worry about them. There are some advanced stuff, so I'm just going to delete them. But the main thing you need is this rel here, rel style sheet, and then this href. Okay, so this link our HTML to Font Awesome. Okay, so now we can use any of Font Awesome's icons. Okay, so let me show you how we are going to use the icons. So I'm going to go to Google. Let me close this one. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to say fontawesome.com. Okay, then when I am in fontawesome.com, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this one here. As you can see, icons. Okay, and then the first icon I want to search is I want to use, let me use a face screen. Okay, let's select the free ones. Okay, so okay, let me use this face green stars. Okay, so when you see the when you see the, I want to show you again. Okay, so you select the one that you want, you search it, select it, then you click it. Now you come down here, you see this code here for HTML, it says HTML, so you just click on it. Now once you click on it, let's come back to our project. So I'll replace it with this I. Sorry, that's for the first one. Okay, now let's go back to our project, and as you can see, we have the Font Awesome icon here. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so for the first text or for the first feature, for me, I'll say exquisite craftsmanship. Once again, this is what we are working on. So this one, premium materials, for me, I'll say exquisite craftsmanship. Okay, and let me come here and just copy it. I'll copy this description here. Crafted from top tier materials. Our keyboards offered longevity and premium feel. So let me just paste it here. Okay. All right, next up, let's move to the second one. So once again, I'll go to Font Awesome, and here in the icons, I am going to click track. Okay, so I'll select the first track here, and then I'll click here, copy it, and then come and replace the I. Okay, so as you can see, I have the track here. Okay, so I was supposed to use this for the second one, so let me just copy it, and then I'll paste it here for the second one. All right, now for the heading, I'll say swift delivery, and then I'll come and copy the description here and paste it in the P tag like so. Okay, next up, let's go back to Font Awesome for the third icon. So for the third icon, I want to use a heart circle. So I'll search heart circle. Okay, and I want to use this one here, the heart circle with a check. Okay, this lovely icon here. I'll click copy, then let me paste it here in my LI, and then the heading I want to use is guaranteed quality, like so. Now I'm going to come to my document here and copy the description, and let me post it in the P tag like so. All right, so now we've created 3 of the features. Okay, so we have 3 features here. We also have 3 features in this one that we are building. Okay, all right, don't worry about the styles for now. We'll work on it when we get to the CSS session. Okay, now the next thing we want to look at is the how it works. So we have a YouTube video that we've embedded in here. So the way I'm going to do that is to come here and I'm going to add new comment. I'll say how it works section, and then I am going to say, let me add a section. This section is going to have an ID. Yeah, so all of the sessions should have an ID. So once again, I forgot that one. So this one has an ID of features. This one is also going to have an ID of how it works. Okay, so remember this right here, these hrefs. So this href, the value here should be the same as the value for the ID of the session. Okay, so that's why this one should be how it works. So the how it works session should have an ID of how it works. Okay, now inside I want to add what we call an iframe. Okay, so with the iframe, let me give it an ID of video. So as you can see, number 6, user story 6 says that you can watch an embedded product video with ID of video. So using the iframe, I can add a video. So I'll give it an ID of video. And then for the source, I want to use a YouTube video. Okay, so the YouTube video I'm going to use is here. I'm going to click this.
So I've been using this really cool,
so this is the YouTube video I want to use. I'll just copy the link, and then what I'm going to do is click, copy and paste it here. But watch this very carefully. So what I'm going to do is, you see this watch with a question mark and then V, okay, and the equal to sign. I'm going to delete them, delete all of it, and then I'll replace it with embedded. So I'll say embed like so. Okay, so let me undo so that you see what I did here. So this is the link for the YouTube video I want to use. Okay, but if I put this here, let's see, it doesn't show up, and the reason is because you have to embed it. So for us to embed it, I am going to clean this part of the URL and replace it with the word embed. So embed like so, and then add another /. Now as you can see, our video is showing up on our page. Okay, so now we are done with the how it works session as well. Okay, so let me add the closing iframe. There we go. All right, so let's clean this up a little bit. All right, great. Now let's move on. So finally, what we want to add is the pricing session. As you can see, we have this pricing session with various price models, and want to add it as well below our YouTube video. So I'm going to add a new comment. Let's call this pricing section, and then we want to add a new section element. This section element once again should have an ID. The ID should be the same as the href that we gave here. Okay, so I'm going to say ID. Let's give it pricing. Okay, so now as you can see, we have 3 elements. Okay, three elements, or 3 sort of different price ranges. So once again, I want to use a UL for it, an unordered list. So I'll say UL. And then inside the UL, you're going to have some LIs. Okay. All right. Now let's look at what each price card contains. So you can see that each card has this sort of header here, has this price, and it has this sort of descriptions or text here, and then a select button. So the way I'm going to do that is to say, let's add an H2, which we are going to use for the header. Okay. And then for the price, I'll use a P. And let me give it some IDs. So for the UL, I'm going to say pricing list. So this is going to contain all three of the list cards or the price card. So I'm going to say price list. And then for the LI, which will contain just one, I will say give it a class and say pricing item. Okay, so now we have our H2 for the header. We have our P tag for the price. And then let's also add this list here. There's a list. So I'm going to add another list. So we'll have an unordered list here like so. Okay. We can have a list within a list. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to say, let's give it a class of price details. Sorry. Price details. And for this P, let's give it a class of price. Okay. Then inside, we're going to have 4 LIs. 4 LI item. Let's give each one a class of, I'll call it price details items. Okay. Then I'm going to say lorem ipsum. That's just a placeholder text. So this is what, as a reminder, this is what I'm trying to add. Okay, so 4 of them. And then I'll say, let me hold Option and Shift, and then I'll press down to create 4 of them. So for the third one, I'll just add $ to it. Okay, just as it is here. All right. Now let me go ahead and add the select button. So I'm going to say button. And then the button is going to have a text of select. Let's give it a class. And let's call the class select-btn. That's select button. Okay. Now, what I am going to do is, so this is just only for one class. Okay, so let's give it a header. I will say, let's call it blue and white. That's one of our mechanical keyboard. So that one will go for a price of 140. And let's see what we have here. Yeah, so as you can see, we have this here. That's one card. We eventually style it. So that's one card. So now I'll repeat 3 times. So I'll copy the LI, the whole of this. Let me copy it. Then I'll paste it here. I'll change this one to white and orange. So let me say white and orange. And then let's give it a price of 100 cedis. And then I'll paste another one below it, which is going to be black and gold. So let's just say black and gold, like so. And then the price is going to be 150 cedis. Okay, so there we have it. We have our 3 price cards. Okay, so we are making a great deal of progress here. All right, let's continue. So finally, we want to work on our footer element. As you can see, we have a footer here with some information below. So I'll just add a new comment. I'll say footer. And then if you're wondering how I create these comments, I use command and then / command / or control / if you're on Windows. Okay, so I'll just say footer. All right, so let's bring our footer element like so. And then for our footer element, we can see that we have a list of some links here, and then we have some text below it. So for the list, of course, I'm going to use a UL. So I'm going to say UL like so. And then let me give the UL a class. Let me call it footer list. Okay. And then let me give it this LIs. Okay. So I'll give each LI a class of footer items. And then inside each LI, I want to add an A tag, which is a link, because these guys or these words you see here, these are links. As you can see, when I hover the mouse on it, it turns into a pointer. All right, now each link will have an href. So I'll just give it a hash symbol so that because it is not going to link anywhere, just for the purpose of our project. The first one is going to be privacy. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. Let me paste it. Second one is going to be terms. I'll paste one more here. Third one is going to be contacts. So let's clean this up and write contacts like so. Okay. Now after the list, we want to add another p tag for this copyright. So you say copyright let me just write it like so. So copyright 2023, comma, let me just say mechanical keyboard. All right, and with that, we are done with our HTML. So this is all of our HTML code that we need for our product landing page. So as you can see, we have this header here, we have the navigation, we have our hero, and we have our features, we have our embedded video, and we have our price tags or cards, and then finally we have our footer. So let's see if we pass the user test, or we pass the test before we move on to the styling. So I'm just going to run the test like this, and as you can see, we pass almost everything. Okay, so the one that we don't pass yet, your nav bar should be always at the top of the viewport. So we'll do that in the CSS. Your product landing should use at least one media query. Again, we'll do that in the CSS. Your product landing should use CSS flexbox at least once. Again, we'll also do that in the CSS. Okay, so yeah, so that's it for our HTML. Now let's start working on the styling. Okay. All right, so let me close this up so that we have more space to work with. Okay, so for the styling, I want to begin by going to Google Fonts. So we are done with Font Awesome. I'm going to close this up. I'm also done with this one, so I'm going to close this up. All right, then I'll say Google Font. I want to look for, we are looking for a font called Lato. Okay, so in Lato, I want to choose, I'll choose 100. I will also choose 300. I'll click here, 400, 700, and also 900. These are the different like font sizes. So once I'm done selecting them, as you can see, I selected 100, 300, 400, 700, and 900. What I'm going to do is when I come here, I'll click import. When I click import, I'll copy everything that is within the style element. Okay. So I'll just copy it like so. And then come and paste it at the top of my CSS. Okay. All right. Now let me close this up. So this is going to import the font Lato from Google Fonts so that I can use it in my project. All right. Now let's get started. Okay. So the first thing I want to look at is the body. So for the body element, I am going to use the font that I just imported from Google Fonts. I'll say Lato and give it a fallback font of sans serif. I also want to give it a background color of this right here. I'll say FE, which is sort of a grayish color, but not too gray. Then for all of our sessions, I want each one to have a margin top of 75 pixels. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so that our sessions will be separated from one another. Okay, let's continue. Next up, what I want to do is for the ULs, UL, for all of the unordered list, I want to remove the paddings that they have. And then also this list styles, these bulletin points, I want to remove all of them. So I'm going to say list style none. So one thing you should note this, I am going to leave a link to the source code in the description below, so you see the final code. In case you get stuck and you want to have a look at it, I will leave a link to it in the description below so that you can have a look. Okay, let's move on. I'll also give it a padding of 0. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is I want us to work. So as you can see, we've removed all of the padding. Okay, now I want us to work on our header. As you can see, this is looking nowhere close to what we have here. Okay, so we want to make it very nice. This image is too big. I need to work on it. So I'll come here and I'm going to write a comment just to keep things clean and organized. Header. So this is going to be the styling for our header. First, let me fix that image. So I'm going to say header image. Let me give it a width of 100 pixels. Let me give it a height of 25 pixels. Okay, now it's looking very smallish, and I think this is better. This is way better than what we had before. All right, now I'll go ahead and work on the header itself. So I'll say header. Let's give it a display of flex. Okay, so as you can see, when I give it a display of flex, I have the logo here and I have the text also here. Now I want the text to be at one end and the logo also should be at one end. So the way I'm going to do that is to give it a justify content. I'll say space between. Let's see the effect of that. As you can see, where is it? Yeah, as you can see, here is it, but it's gone all the way to the far end. So I'm going to fix it very soon. Let's continue. I am also going to do align items. I'll say center. Let's give it a padding of 20 pixels and 5%. Okay. Yeah, let's continue working. We'll get back to it. All right, now I want this to be fixed. So as you can see here, the nav bar or the header we have at the top is fixed. So when you scroll up, it remains there. It doesn't move along with the other elements on the page. But here, when you scroll up, our nav bar moves alongside the other elements. So the way I'm going to do that is to say, let's give our header a position of fixed. Let's give it a top value of 0. And let's see. Yeah, so now it's fixed. As you can see, when I'm moving, this right here is fixed. Okay, it doesn't move along with it. Yeah, it's not looking like the way we want it, but we'll work on that, don't worry. Also, let's give it a width of 90%. Okay, and let's give it a background color. Let's say, again, let me use this FEFE here. All right, now when I'm scrolling up, as you can see, it still remains. Okay, it doesn't move. All right, let's continue. Now let me work on the logo. So I want the logo, I don't want the merge keyboard to be under it. I want it to be on the same line as the image. So the way I'm going to do that is just say, let me come here, logo. Where's the logo? Okay, yeah, this is the logo div. Okay, so it's a div with 2 elements, the image and then the paragraph or the p tag text. So I'll just say display. Let me give it flex. And then as you can see, we have it next to each other, but it's not properly aligned. So let me align it by saying align items. Let me say center. And also give some gap between it and say 10 pixels. Okay, as you can see now, it's perfectly aligned. All right. So let's now work on the nav link. So for the nav link, what I want to do is I want us to for the nav link, where is the nav link? Yeah, okay, there's the nav link. Okay, let's see. But before that, let me bolden this a bit. So let me say logo. I'll bring a space and bring P, which is going to select the P inside the logo div. Let's give it a font weight of bold, a font size of 1.2 rem. Yeah, I think this is better. All right. Now onto the nav link. So for the nav link, it's a class. So let me say dot. I want to give each one of them a text decoration of none. This is going to take the underline away from it. Let's give it a color of black. Okay, because I don't like this violet color. Let's say black. Okay, let's say margin right 10 pixels. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to, yeah, I don't understand why this thing is all the way to the left here, but yeah, we'll work on it, don't worry, I'll come back to it. For now, let's move on. I want to go to the hero session, so I'll say hero, and I'll say dot hero, which is going to select the whole thing. Okay, dot hero like so, And let me give it a margin top of 120 pixels. Okay, so that it has some breathing room from the header. Let's also give it a display of flex. I'll give it a flex direction of column, and then let's give it an align items of center. Okay, so as you can see, we have it centered here in the middle of our page. Oh, okay, now I see what was happening. So I had zoomed out. Oh, okay, that's why the features was all the way to the right. Okay, so now this makes sense. Okay, so we have so as you can see, we have our header here nicely aligned, and our hero image is also, hero session is also here. Okay, now let's work on this. Let's give it some font size. I'll say H1. Okay, first let me give it a margin of 25 pixels. I think I'll maintain the font for now. Let's work on the forms. I'll say form. So I want it to be below it, the button to be below it and not beside it. Okay, so I'll use display of flex and then set the flex direction to column. So I'll say display flex. Let's set the flex direction to column. All right, there we have it. That's how we want it to be. Next up, what I am going to do is I'm going to work on the email input. So I'll give it a width. Let's try 300 pixels. Let's also give it a margin bottom to sort of separate it from the button. Let's say 15 pixels. I'll also give it a padding of 5 pixels. Yeah, now as you can see, our email input is looking good. Let's work on the button, the sign up button, which is not looking really good at the moment. So I'm just going to say #submit because it has an ID of submit. Okay, so I'm going to say submit. Let's first give it a width of 150 pixels. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, that's better. Now I want it to be centered. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is to say margin 0 auto. I am also going to say padding 7 pixels. Let's say 10 pixels. Okay, yeah, this looks good. Now I want to remove this border away from it and also change the color. So let me give it a background color of, let's go with orange. Let me also give it a border of none. Let's increase the font weight a bit. Let's say bold. And then let's give it a font size of 16 pixels. All right, let's see how it looks now. Yeah, this looks better. Now I want to work on the hover so that when I hover the mouse on it, the color changes. So I will say submit and I'll bring colon and say hover. I'm going to say background color. So I'll give it the background color of orange. Okay, so now when I hover over it, okay, it's not working. Why is it not working? Submit hover. Let's give it a color of oh, I made the background color orange. Okay, so yeah, that's why it's not working. So it should be a background color of, let's try something more darker. So I'll say 0101. Then let's make the color rather orange, the color for the text. Let's also make the cursor a pointer. Okay, now let's try. Yeah, now it works. Okay, nice. Okay, so I think that's about it for our hero. Once again, this we're trying to build something similar to this. Okay, so this the hero, we have it here. Now let's work on the features, the features section. So again, to keep things nice and organized, I'll just say features so that we know that this is the styles for the features section. All right. First up, let's scroll over to features and we'll start by styling the session itself. So I'll select features and I'll say, let's give it a width of 95%. Let us also give it a max width, because as you can see, 95% is too big. So I want to give it a max width so that if we are on an extremely large screen size, it wouldn't be too big. So I'll say 750 pixels. So once it's hit 750, a width of 750 pixels, it never grows bigger again. Now let's center it. So let's do margin left of auto and margin right also of auto. Margin right of auto. Yeah, as you can see, that's how we want it. Now the next thing I want us to look at is the items itself, the individual features items. So I'll say dot feature dash items. Let's give each a margin bottom so that there is some breathing room. So 50 pixels. Then let's set the display to flex. Okay. Now let's do align items. Sorry, align items of center. Let's do a padding of 0, 10 pixels. Okay, there's still some work to be done. Now let's work on these images here. I want them to have an orange color like we have here. So the way I'm going to do that is to say, as you can see, so let me add a class to each one of them. I'm going to say, let's call them featured image, like so. Okay, then I'm going to refer to that class and say feature image. I am going to say color. Let's give it a color of orange. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it does. Now let's increase the size a little bit. I'll say font size 50 pixels, and then I'll also give it a margin right to push it away from the text. A margin right of 50 pixels as well. Okay, looking good now. Now we want to do the feature heading. Let's give it a margin of 0. Let's also give the feature description, which is the text. Let's give it a margin of 2 pixels for the top and bottom, and then 0 for the left and right. Okay. All right, now we have to put this image on the left and on the right as well. So what I am going to do is, let's see. Okay. So we have a display flex, align items center. Okay, so I think I need to, so we have our features here. Inside we have our UL, and then have I selected the UL yet? Which is features list. No, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. So, okay, you know what? Let's continue. We'll come back to it. So next up, let's go to the how it works sessions, which is the video. So I'll say how it works. And for this one, where is it? Okay, so I'm going to select the session and I'm going to say it has an ID of how it works. So dash how it works. Let's give the text a line of center. Yeah, to put it at the center. Now let's work on the size a little bit. So I'm going to say video. It has an ID of video, remember? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the video an aspect ratio of 16:9, which is the default for YouTube videos. Let's also give it a width of 80%. Now let's give it a max width of 600 pixels. And then let's give it a border of none. We don't want any border around it. All right. Yeah, now it looks good. Really good. Okay, now let's work finally on our price cards. Okay, this is the price cards that we have. Let's work on it. So we want the header to have this gray looking background on it, and then we want this one to be centered nicely, and then we style the button and also put a border around it. So I'll keep things nice and organized as we are doing. I'll say pricing, and then I'll start with the pricing list, which is the UL containing the cart. So I'll say pricing list. Let's give it a display of flex. Let's give it a flex direction of row. Okay, yeah, that's how we want it. Now we want to give it justify content of center to center it. Let's say max width. Let's just say 1000 pixels. Let's say margin of 0 and auto. Okay, great. Now we have it centered. So let's work on the individual cards themselves. So I'll select price item to target each price item. Oops, sorry. So I'll say price item. Let's say border 1 pixel solid gray for the border. I'll give each a margin of 20 pixels to separate them nicely from one another. Let's keep the text aligned in the middle by saying text align center. And let's give each one a width of, let's say 60% for now. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay, so it's pricing item, not price item. So pricing item. All right, now we have our carts. Okay, nice. So now let's work on adding the background color to the H2. So I'll say pricing item space, and then let's add our H2. So let's do font size of 16 pixels. Let's also do a background color of let me use this color DDD, which is Yeah, that looks good. Not quite what we want it to be, but so let's take the margin at the top by giving it a margin of 0. Let's also give it a padding of, let's say 8 pixels. Okay, now we are getting closer. Now let's work on the actual price itself. So this text here, let's make it a little bit bold. So I will say dot price, because that's the class we gave it, this one right here. And then I'll say font size 24 pixels. I'll give it a margin of 15 pixels. Then let's try a font weight. Font weight of 900. Let's also do a color of, you know what, 090909, which is black but a slightly lighter shade of black. Okay. All right, now let's do the price details, which is these ones here. And for those ones, I'm going to say dot price details dot items, these ones here. And I'm going to give each one a margin top of 10 pixels. Okay. And then finally, let's work on the select button. So we give them a class of select btn. Let's give them a width of 100 pixels, margin top of 30 pixels. Okay. Now let's give it some padding, shall we? Or let's try margin bottom as well. So, yeah, this one has some margin bottom as well. So let's try that. So we say margin bottom. Let's also give it, let's say 15 pixels. Let's give it a background color of orange. Let's try border, none. And then let's give it a padding of 10 pixels and 5 pixels, 15 pixels for the left and right. Okay, let's see how it looks now. Okay, now we have our cart in place. So yeah, our carts are done as well. So now let's work finally on the footer. Okay, so once again, in the spirit of keeping things nice and clean, I'll say footer, add my comments, and then start writing my styles for the footer. So first, let's target the footer itself. Let's give it a display of flex. Okay. Yeah, now we want it to be a column so that this will be on top of it, on top of the copyright, as you can see. So I'll say display column, no, flex direction, sorry. Flex direction of column. Let's do align items of flex end to push it to the end. Yeah, to bring it here, that's how we want it. Now I'm going to do a background color of DDD once again. Let's give it some margin top of 20 pixels. Let's do padding of 15 pixels and then 20 pixels for the left and right. Okay. Yeah, there you have it. Now let's put these ones on the same line instead of it being one on top of the other. So the way I'm going to do that is just say the footer list. Where is the footer? Yeah, so let me select the footer list. And I'm going to say display of flex. So the default flex direction is row, so I don't even need to write it. Yeah, as you can see. Now let me select the list items individually. So I will say footer li. Let's give it a margin left to separate them from one another of 20 pixels. Let's also give it a margin bottom of 5 pixels. Okay, now let's tackle the individual links one by one. So we want to say footer A, which will select the links in the link. Text decoration, let's take the underline out. So we'll say text decoration none, and then let's give it a color of something closer to black. So let's say 191919. Yeah, now let's close this gap up a little bit. Okay, let's do footer P. Let's do a font size of 14, and let's also do color of 050505. Sorry. Let's see. Yeah, so we have our footer here also in place. Now, yeah, I think our page is almost done. There's still some work to be done. Let's try and reduce this. I will say, let me give this margin button 0. Let's see what happens. Okay, so nothing changes. Okay. Let's also give this a margin bottom of, or margin of even 0. Okay, so all right. So as you can see, there is some slightly padding here, some margin and padding here. So the way I'm going to clear that is I'm just going to go to the top and I'll use the SAS selector. Okay, like so. And then let me give this one a padding of 0. I will also give it a margin of 0 as well. Okay, that settles it. All right. Now, I think the only thing left is this one here. So we need to find a way of making it look like what we have here. Okay, so let's work on that. So the way I'm going to do that is I am going to set the flex direction. I set the flex direction for the features. Okay. So where is the features? Let's go to features. Okay. So now here at features, we have a display of flex for the feature items. So where is the feature items? Just a moment. Let's try and get this thing to work. Okay, so features items. Not sure why. Just a moment. Let me check the Chrome tools. Okay, so I have a li. This li doesn't have a class name. That's interesting. Oh, I didn't add a class name to the li. Yeah, so that's why the style is not working. Okay, so when we go to our HTML, just a moment, we'll go to our HTML and you see what I mean by that. Yeah, so inside our HTML, we should have an li for, as you can see, I have feature items here, but I don't have it here. Oh, what am I doing? Let's say class. So I'll say class. Let me give it to this one as well, and let me give it to this one as well. Now let's see the magic happen. Whoa, we have it. All right, so we have our page nicely set up. We are done with our page. Yeah, so when we click here, you see it moves to the features section. How it works, it shows us the video, and then pricing, it takes us here. Okay, so now we are done. So I think the only thing left that we need to do is to add some media queries, okay, which is also very, very important, especially because it is also one of our requirements, okay. So as you can see, your product landing page should have at least one media query, okay. So let's get to work on that. So I'll go down here and I'll say, once again, in the spirit of keeping things nice and tidy, I'll say media queries, nicely write my comment, and I'll say at 800. So first, let's do a media query for 800 pixels, for when the screen is 800 pixels. So I'll bring my developer tools here. And then when you are scrolling, as you can see, check here, you see the size. So this is 800. Okay. Now when it's 800, what do we want to do? So what I want to do is for the priced listing. Okay, first let's write the media query. So we say media only screen and into brackets max width 800 pixels. Okay, let's bring our curly brackets and then let's work on the pricing list. So I will say flex direction. I want to change it from row to column. So column, I don't need to write a display flex because it's already in the at the top there. Then let's align items to the center as well. Okay, so here's what I mean. So now as you can see, the price cards are no longer on a row but in a column when the screen size is small, but the size is also too big. So let's work on that as well. So I'll select pricing item for the individual card. Now say width, you should take a width of 45%. Okay, now it looks good. It looks good. Great. Now let's also do a media query for 600 pixels. So I'll scroll to 600 pixels. Okay, and for that one, I need us to work on the, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I need us to work on the navigation, okay, so that it will be below the logo, okay, which we don't have currently. So the way I'm going to do that is to work on the header. But first, let me copy this, paste it here and say media queries at 600. Let me also copy this and paste it here and say media queries at 600. Let me add my brackets, closing brackets. Okay, now let's work on the header. We'll say header and I'll give the flex direction of column so that will be one on top of the other. So column, let's see. Yeah, there we have it. But then we want this one to also be one on top of the other and not like this. So I'll select the nav bar as well. Let's give the nav bar a display of flex. Let's give it flex direction of column. Let's give it align items of center, and then I'll give it margin top of 15 pixels. Yeah, now it's working nicely. Now let's do some margins so that there will be some space between them here. So I'll say .nav link, which is the individual links. Let's say margin bottom 5 pixels. Okay. I also want to have some space between the H1 and the navigation. So I'll say H1 margin top, let me say 50 pixels. Okay, this looks good. Now let's do just one more media query and then we are done. Okay, so we'll do one more, just one more. And that one will be for 500. Okay, once again, I'll just copy this. And then I am going to paste it here like so. Let's say 500. Okay. So finally, the media query wants us to add is 500. So when you see this one, when it is too small, the icons here vanishes. Okay, the icons disappears on very small screen. So that's what I want us to do. So that's for 500. Okay. So when the screen size is 500 or less, I also want this one to be centered. Okay. So I'll do first, let's select the H1 and let's do text align center. Now let's select the featured image. I'll do display none so that it vanishes. Display none. Yeah, as you can see. Now I want us to center the text. Okay. So let's select featured text. Let's say text align center. And then finally for the pricing, you see this looks very slim. Now I want us to make it slightly bigger, just slightly. So we say dot pricing items is item, not items. Let's give it a width of 50%. Okay, so yeah, that is it. We have our product landing page nicely done. We have our navigation, our hero, our featured session, and then our video here, pricing, and then our footer. Very nicely done. And it is also responsive. Okay. So yeah, we are done. That is it. So let's run the test again and see if we pass all the tests this time around. So I'm going to run the test again. Ooh, as you can see, we passed the test. Okay, so submit and go to next challenge. All right, guys, so that's it. We are done with the product landing page in the CSS curriculum. All right, so if you've watched up to this point, congratulations and keep it up. If you like the video, I will encourage you to hit the like button and also subscribe so that when we do subsequent videos, you get it as well. All right, so I'm going to be dropping videos on the other project as well, and also I've done the other three. So if you want to have a look at it, the link is in the description below. Check it out, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.